I've narrowed your choices down to 5 unthinkable options. Each will cause untold misery.
I picked number 3.
You don't even want to read them first?
I was elected to lead, not to read. Number 3.
Long have I waited.
In this video, we are going to rank all of the leader traits in Stellaris. There are going to be hundreds of icons on screen, and it's going to take quite a while. Make sure you're sat down, make sure you've got a snack and a drink, and let's dive in. This is going to be a marathon, but don't worry, we will take it one step at a time. The journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. What I have done is I have ranked each different type of leader trait in this tier list from the top to the bottom, and we're going to go through each type one at a time until we get to the very end. There are 6 different types or classes of traits. We have Destiny traits, split into Councilor Destiny traits and regular Destiny traits. We have Veteran traits, again split into Councilor and regular. And finally, we have the basic traits split into Councilor and regular for, as I said, a total of 6 different classes. Let's start right at the beginning at the bottom in the F tier with the Destiny Councilor traits. Shadow Broker is, of course, a Councilor trait. Now let me briefly explain what that means. If you put a leader with this trait on your council, their effects will be applied to your entire empire. This generally means that Councilor traits are much more powerful than regular traits, and that's why I have separated them out in the category. So Shadow Broker gives you 150% infiltration speed, minus 25% operation cost, and +2 available envoys. The main reason this is down here in the F tier is that operations and getting extra infiltration for operations is simply not powerful enough. If operations get reworked by the custodians, this could go up all the way to B or A tier, but at the moment it's simply not good enough. We'll jump up to the C tier now. First off, we have Master Bureaucrat. This is actually a generic trait that pretty much any of your leaders could be unfortunate enough to roll. It gives you minus 5% leader upkeep for all leaders, minus 5% empire size effect, and plus 75 edict fund. If this scaled your edict fund by some level, say plus 25 or plus 50% edict fund, it would be much better, but overall these benefits are minimal. Reducing empire size effect rather than reducing empire size directly means this does not stack with a lot of other bonuses we have available in the game, so it really does not have very much impact even if you had 4 or 5 leaders with this. If you are focusing heavily on the galactic community, Master Diplomat is of course slightly better for you. It grants plus 20% diplomatic weight, 2 envoys, and 50 trust cap. You can only get this if you have an official with the Ambassador Veteran class. These bonuses though are really not worth a Destiny trait. The official that you send to the galactic community will already give you plus 10% diplomatic weight per level, so an extra 20% here is like getting 2 free levels on that leader. Brilliant Shipwright gives you a 100% chance for Voidcraft research options, plus 33% Voidcraft research speed, and plus 33% ship build speed. If you are attempting to rush down Mega Engineering, this is slightly better. I'd probably push it up to the B tier, but overall these bonuses are generally quite minimal. The ship build speed, you can get lots of that from other factors. You don't need this trait. This is one of the statistician, scientist, veteran class Destiny traits, and honestly there are better traits you can and should pick if you have a statistician on the council. Driven Educator is again a statistician class trait. It grants plus 25% leader experience gain. This is a good, healthy bonus, though often it comes far too late. By the time you're getting lots of Destiny traits on your council, you've generally ascended, you've generally got long leader lifespans, and your leaders are basically almost at maximum level. If that's not the case, if you somehow managed to rush just one leader, I don't know how that's possible, but if you have done that, then this probably is closer to B tier, though still there are good bonuses you're missing out on. Peacekeeper gives you 5 stability empire-wide, plus 35% piracy suppression, minus 20 crime, and, unfortunately, plus 40% pacifist ethics attraction. Now you can combat that pacifist ethics attraction by doubling down on governing attraction modifiers, or if you are already pacifist, this is not a problem whatsoever. That +5 stability is quite nice to get across your empire. It's an additional 3% resources from jobs or 3% extra trade value on all of your planets. The crime reduction as well is good. That probably saves you needing one enforcer on all of your worlds, so you're getting increased pop efficiency. This is now the B tier. We're starting to get to destiny traits that are close to a civic or an ascension perk. They're getting really, really good. Herald of the Empire is basically a better version of Master Diplomat, but it's only available if your leader follows the authoritarian ethic. You'll get plus 20% diplomatic weight, plus 1 monthly influence just straight up, and plus 1 subject exempt from divided patronage. You can combine that bonus with other effects like that from the Ascension perk Shared Destiny to get many, many vassals without a loyalty penalty. If you're not interested in the galactic community and you don't have any vassals though, this of course is a garbage trait. Grey Eminence is the only Advisor Destiny trait that you can find. It grants minus 10% Empire Size effect, not Empire Size, plus 50% Governing Ethics Attraction, and minus 5% Happiness. That happiness debuff is a little painful, but it should kind of work itself out with the Governing Ethics Attraction bonus, so you have more pops following your Governing Ethics and thus in your Governing Ethics factions, overall increasing their happiness just a bit on average across the Empire. Gravitas just straight up gives you plus 40% diplomatic weight. This makes it better in terms of getting galactic community votes through than Master Diplomat, but maybe it's just the authoritarian in me, but I prefer Herald of the Empire. Mutual support is the other delegate destiny trait that you can get other than Gravitas. It gives you plus 1 favor and plus 5 trust whenever a supported resolution passes with the proposing empire. This is pretty close to a tradition pick in terms of power, and if you want to push your weight around in the galactic community, getting lots and lots of favors with lots and lots of empires is an easier way to do it than just trying to have the most diplomatic weight. Architect of War is a Commander Strategist Veteran class trait. It grants you plus 15% sublight speed, 30% military ship build speed, 10% voidcraft research speed, and 25% more chance for voidcraft options. That sublight speed bonus is nice, but honestly I wouldn't recommend this over the other better destiny traits you can get as a commander. We're up in the A tier now. Generally traits here are above. If I get the option to take them, I will take them. Of course, we only get 3 different picks at our disposal, so you're not always guaranteed to get great destiny traits on your leaders. Perceptive Mentor does not help you get better destiny traits, but it will help you with leveling up all of your leaders in your empire. This trait, when placed on the council, gives plus 1 additional leader trait options for all leaders. This is also a generic destiny trait that can be rolled by any leader. Getting this one on your council first is probably best. Later on, when you've already leveled up most of your leaders, it becomes much less powerful, but it's still very good for leader specialization. Military Overseer gives you plus 2 maximum influence from power projection, plus 25% military ship build speed, and plus 500 ship starting experience. Getting 2 of these on the council, or pairing it with other traits and bonuses for additional ship starting experience, means you can start your ships at 1000 experience, putting them up basically to level 3 already, giving you lots of fantastic bonuses on all of your ships. The additional influence from power projection is pretty nice as well. Esteemed Quartermaster has a very simple effect. Plus 2 naval capacity per soldier, and plus 1 defense army per soldier. Pairing this with the technology, you can get 8 naval capacity out per soldier base. That is of course further modified by any bonuses you have to naval capacity. This can allow you to field very large mid to late game fleets and be able to take on 10 and 25 times crisis empires with a smaller economy. Grabbing this and Unyielding is also good. You're going to be getting more unity output because each of those defensive armies will be granting some unity. Great Researcher is again a very simple trait. You get a flat plus 10% to research speed. This is in effect equivalent to an entire Ascension perk. It is awesome. If I see this, I'm going to take it and put it on my council and get more research. At very, very high empire size, and if you already have lots and lots of bonuses to research speed, let's say you've got 2,000 or 3,000 empire size reductions will of course be more effective than this bonus from Great Researcher. But at lower empire sizes and at lower empire research speed bonuses, let's say you're already at 60% and, I don't know, 400 empire size, this is much more effective. We're now up to the S tier. There's only one Destiny Councilor trait that deserves to be here, and that is Genius Armorer. Hands down, the best trait in the game. What does it do? For every Genius Armorer on your council, every single ship you control will get plus 100 shield hit points, plus 100 armor hit points, and plus 20% shield and armor hardening. That will also stack, so if you have 3 of these, you're getting 300 shield and armor hit points and 60% shield and armor hardening on every ship. This negates the effect of penetrating weapons like fightercraft, missiles, and bypass weapons like focused arc emitters or disruptors. It is awesome. On top of that, if you want to run some sort of Corvette swarm, you can get lots and lots of additional shield and armor hit points on those ships. One important thing to note here, you do need to make sure you have at least one shield module on all of your ships, otherwise you won't get any shield regen from this trait. If you don't put shield modules on your ships, once they lose their shield hit points, they will never regain them. And if you're enjoying this video, please lead that like button. We're now going to go all the way back down to the F tier and rank each of the non-Councilor Destiny traits. These are all still powerful, but I'm going to be comparing them to each other and not to the Councilor Destiny traits. I hope that makes sense to everyone. If you're unsure what I mean, write a comment down below. I or some other helpful commenter on YouTube will try and explain what I'm talking about. First up in the F tier, we have Urbanist. Now, this is a governor trait that will affect either the sector or the planet you're on. On the planet you're on, it reduces empire size from districts by 75% and reduces building and district upkeep by 50%. This is of course halved for all other planets if you're on the sector capital, and this bonus will go out to them at minus 37.5% and minus 25% apiece. Empire size from districts is the lowest form of empire size that you're going to get, so reducing it is really inconsequential. The main bonus here really is that building and district upkeep, reducing the amount of strategic resources you need to spend on your higher level buildings. Xeno Mediator is only available if you are a Xenophile. You'll get plus 2% happiness per species on the planet if you're governing that planet, and plus 2% amenities per species on the planet, again if you are governing it. The sector bonuses are half what we previously mentioned. This is really only good if you're playing a Xenophile empire with Xeno compatibility and you're trying to get as many species as you can on one single planet. If you can get, 10, 20, 30 species, then it's all right. Getting a bonus to amenities and happiness at the maximum level can push your stability up to a total of plus 30 stability if you get to 100% happiness. Though it is quite easy to get to maximum happiness or maximum stability through other methods, which generally makes this trait entirely useless. If it were adding pop growth, I think it would be an entirely different conversation we would be having. Grand Taskmaster is a Commissioner Destiny trait, granting plus 500 army starting experience and plus 2 energy, minerals, and food for all soldiers on the planet. These bonuses are halved and rolled out to everything else in the sector as well. Getting meager amounts of energy, minerals, and food from your soldiers is honestly not worth it, as is getting 500 army starting experience. This is nothing compared to Genius Armorer. Chainbreaker is only available to egalitarian-focused leaders and grants plus 100% army morale. That's it. Yeah, don't take it. Honored Warmaster is a Xenophile leader trait. It gives you plus 1 soldier per 10 population, and that also scales out at half the effect to every other planet in your sector. Getting just 1 additional soldier per 10 pops is nice, but it's not very many soldiers at all. Even at, say, 100 pops on a planet, you're looking at 10 additional soldier jobs. I'd rather build an additional habitat and use the building slots there to get that many soldier jobs than wasting an entire Destiny trait on this. Academic Recruiter is quite a strange trait. It's only available for materialists and it requires you are a Commissioner Commander. You'll get plus 10% engineering research from jobs, plus 1 engineering research from soldiers, plus 4 naval capacity from researchers, and plus 1 alloy upkeep from those same researchers. However, as a commander and as a commissioner at level 8, you're giving at least minus 16% research output from jobs on this planet, and if you're a higher level, even bigger reductions. You don't want commissioners governing research world, so I'm really confused by this trait. Vibrant Storyteller increases your anomaly research speed by 25% and grants 300 experience for all scientists in your empire whenever you complete an anomaly. The issue here is it takes you so long to get this, it is a destiny trait, that invariably you will already have researched all of the anomalies available to you by the time you can take this, making it entirely worthless. Xeno Cataloger gives you 50% sublight speed, 50% survey speed, and 15% anomaly discovery chance. Just like that previous trait we looked at though, by the time you unlock this, you'll have finished all of your surveying and all of your anomalies, so it's kind of completely useless. Last up in the F tier, we have Frontier Adventurer. This grants plus 1 monthly minor artifacts, plus 25% sublight speed, plus 25% survey speed, and plus 15 chance to evade. That monthly minor artifact income is dismal, and why would you at this point need additional sublight and survey speed on your science vessel when you've pretty much surveyed the whole galaxy already? We're up now to the C tier. Items here are a bit more usable than those in the F. First up we have Elite Benefactor, granting 50% ruler resource output and 15% ruler political power on the planet this leader is governing. Of course, those effects are halved and passed out to the sector as well. The ruler political power is good, that's going to give your factions more unity income and probably boost your happiness and thus stability on your planets, but the ruler resource output is basically trash. That's generally just giving you a little bit of extra unity. Galvanizer increases a planet's happiness by 10% and increases unity from employed pops by 0.5. That's not very much. The happiness bonus is nice. We're looking there at an additional 6% stability, meaning about 3.5–4% resources from jobs. It's good, but it's only 1 planet. Every other planet in the sector gets half that bonus. Supreme Warrior increases your army damage by 33%, your morale damage by 66%, and reduces your collateral damage by 33%. The main reason this is up here in the C tier and not down below in the B tier is that by reducing army collateral damage, we will kill fewer pops when invading a planet, and that means we're getting more bang for our buck when we conquer other worlds. Detail Oriented reduces our archaeology excavation speed by 15% and gives you 15 monthly society research and 5 monthly minor artifacts while this leader is excavating archaeological sites. This is somewhat more useful than the survey traits. You could actually use this to get some decent artifacts and society research by leaving some of your archaeological sites for a little later and finding new ones throughout the game. Up now in the B tier, our first port of call is Utopian Idealist. This grants plus 20% happiness, 25% pop growth from immigration, and 10% immigration pull. Those immigration bonuses, if you aren't running an immigration focused build, probably don't mean anything to you. But that 20% happiness will convert into basically around 7% additional resources from jobs. Of course, if your planet is already at maximum happiness, this is useless, but most of the time it will be very, very good. Resilient Commander grants 25% additional ship hull points and 2% daily hull regeneration. That daily hull regeneration in combat is so dismal you can kind of ignore it. Outside of combat it will be nice, meaning that you don't really have to bring your fleets home, though if you've got lots of armor, yeah, you'll still need to bring your fleets home. There are very few ways of increasing your base ship hull points, so if you're suffering a lot from penetrating weapons, this trait will help you. Guerrilla Tactician gives you 2 extra disengagement opportunities, plus 10 evasion, minus 50% time spent missing in action, and unfortunately minus 25% fleet command limit. If you cloak with this, you'll also get plus 2 cloaking strength. The increased disengagement opportunities and the reduction to time spent missing in action can be very helpful for keeping one of your fleets in the fight for a little bit longer, reducing the amount of new ships you have to build after each engagement. And if you lose the engagement or you're attempting to attack and run away, the reduction to time spent missing in action will help. Planetary Analyst is a Scientist Destiny trait that I'm honestly not sure is still possible to get in the game, though it does still actually exist in the code. It grants you half a point of basic research for technicians, miners, and farmers. Once you've filled up your planet with researchers, you might also want to make use of the basic resource districts they have on them, so this can help boost the planet's research yet further if you've done that. Up here in the A tier, we basically only have Admiral Destiny traits. They are very, very potent though. Master Gunner grants you plus 30% ship's weapons range, plus 30% tracking, and plus 30% accuracy. This basically means with other tracking bonuses you can stack, a fleet filled with artillery type weapons will still be able to shred high evasion ships. Getting extra weapons range really does make this an artillery commander's wet dream. Shield of the Empire is always useful no matter which fleet you place it on. You'll get 45% additional evasion in friendly systems, a massive 45% ship fire rate in friendly systems, and plus 300 shield hit points in all friendly systems. This is particularly great if you're trying to boost your diplomatic weight in the galactic community and you've taken the supremacist policy. This will bloat the military power of your ships and make them better at giving you diplomatic weight. They also do shoot much better if you're defending yourself. Fortress Cracker is weirdly spec'd into only general veteran leaders. You'll get 30% additional ship's weapon damage, which is awesome, plus 50% damage versus star bases, which is a nice bonus to have, and then plus 40% army damage and 100% collateral army damage. The main reason I take this though is for that extra ship's weapons damage and damage versus star bases. Up now in the S tier, most of these traits are going to help you massively with your economy. Shroud Teacher gives you a whopping 25% additional resources from psionic pops on the planet you are governing. On any other planet in the sector, you'll get 12.5% resources from psionic pops. Every 10 years, a pop will also gain the latent psionic trait. That's nice, but the bonus to resource output here is massive. Ruthless Developer is only available to authoritarians. You'll get 50% additional worker pop resource output and 50% additional slave pop resource output, basically making this equivalent to all of the basic resource edicts. You'll also reduce the pop upkeep by 35% on the planet. You do suffer some reduced pop growth speed and happiness though, but really I would take that in favor of the massive bonuses here you are getting to your workers and your slaves. I'm pretty sure Clarminda, one of the renowned paragons, starts with this trait. Botlord is only available to materialist empires. You'll get 20% mechanical pop assembly speed, 20% more robot output, and minus 20% robotic pop amenities usage. That will stack with the minus 50% they usually already have, making their amenities usage near zero. If you synthetically ascend, this is crazy. You should definitely try and get this on as many leaders as you can. Last but by no means least here we have Truth Seekers. This is basically a better version of Shroud Preacher, but it is available to all ethics. You do have to be an analyst scientist, and then you'll get 25% additional resources from psionic pops, 20% more amenities from jobs, and 50% extra spiritualist ethics attraction. That wraps up all of the Destiny traits. We're now going to move on to Veteran Leader traits. These are available from level 5 to level 10, of course excluding your Destiny trait at level 8. This first batch we're looking through is only the Councilor Veteran traits. These are generally though more powerful than the basic veteran traits you can get for your leaders because they will affect your entire empire. First up in the F tier we have Consul General. This gives you 25%, 50%, and then at the maximum level 100% Envoy Improve Relations Speed. This basically means at the max level each of your envoys count as 2 envoys for improving relations. Yeah, let's move on. Frontier Spirit increases your colony development speed and reduces your colony ship build cost. At the highest level, you'll also get +1 population on every new colony. The main reason this isn't that great is getting to that high level comes quite a bit later in the game when you've mostly set up pretty much all of your colonies. Xenolinguist increases your trust cap. It doesn't give you trust faster, and it doesn't allow you to build trust without pacts. It just maximizes the amount of trust you can have, thus possibly increasing your maximum relation with another empire. Cartographer increases your terraforming speed by 10, 25, and 33%. Don't waste a trait pick on this, just turn on the Exotic Gases Terraforming Edict. That's just much better. Expeditionist increases your clear blocker speed, so you'll be able to clear blockers just a little bit quicker. Oh yay. From the ranks increases your army experience gain and army morale, and it is a trait that only strategists on the council can take. There are much better traits for your admirals on the council, don't waste it on this. Recruiter increases your army build speed and reduces your army cost. Maybe if you stack 2 or 3 of these and get minus 60% army cost, you're saving yourself, a few extra minerals? Yeah, I suppose. I really struggle to find a purpose or an economic reason for the army-focused traits most of the time. Entrepreneur increases your commercial pact efficiency. Now this is basically going to be granting at the maximum level 25% additional commercial pact efficiency, taking your commercial pact value from 10% of your trade value up to 12.5%. That's such a minor increase that even if you are playing with a trade-focused empire, don't bother with this, go with a better trait. I suppose you will have some solace in knowing that any leader with this trait comes from the entrepreneurial region of France, otherwise they'd just be a sparkling businessman. Expansionist is a weird trait that your scientists can get for the council, reducing your outpost cost by 5, 7.5, and finally 10%. Generally, you're not really suffering from building lots and lots of outposts. That's not a crippling cost your empire faces regularly, so pick a better trait. The psionic expertise is now the worst expertise in the game. You'll get a small amount of additional research speed for psionic technologies, and by the way, there's basically no psionic technologies, and a massive increase in your chance of rolling psionics. The only reason we would want this would be to roll the psionic theory technology, but now the developers have changed the game and we can use an agenda to automatically unlock that technology. This trait is very rarely needed and basically becomes dead weight. The expertise Archaeo studies is also similarly dead weight. You will get a reduction to your minor artifact cost on your ships, but that's so minor, if you'll pardon the pun, that it doesn't really allow you to splurge out on minor artifact components for all of your navy. The bonus you get to research speed here is also terrible when you compare it to the bonus you are probably already getting from the Archaeolab improvement. We're now up to the C tier for these veteran councillor traits. First is Overseer. This grants you monthly loyalty in every single subject. At the maximum level, you're going to get 0.5 additional monthly loyalty. That's not very much, but if you stack this 2 or 3 times across a couple of different leaders, it can help you quite a bit. It's almost equivalent to 1 Ascension perk. Shady Contacts at first only increases your code breaking, then encryption, and at the maximum level both code breaking and encryption. This is good if you want to do some intelligence operations and if you want to prevent other factions being able to do operations on you or being able to build up an intel network. The actual operations, as you might know from previous comments in this tier list, aren't that great, but intel can be very, very useful. All-Knowing increases your speed of intel gain. This means that as you research technologies, as you unlock new abilities to increase your base intel level, you will actually get faster intel, so you'll be able to know what the enemy has, where their ships are positioned, what is on their ships, faster than if you didn't have this trait. Opportunist gives you a monthly chance to gain a favor from improving relations. At the maximum level, you get 1% monthly chance to gain a favor from improving relations. Now, this does stack with other modifiers that do the same thing, for example, the tradition. So if you want to get lots and lots of favors and you have quite a few envoys, this is a nice trait to pick. You could improve relations in a lot of places of strategic importance, for instance on the Galactic Council, and acquire many favors this way. Charmer reduces your diplomatic agreement influence upkeep. At the highest level, you're going to get minus 15% diplomatic agreement influence upkeep reduction. Stacking 2 or 3 of these together can give you quite a nice reduction if you're playing a very diplomatically focused game. If you have lots of defensive pacts, lots of guarantees, lots of research agreements or commercial pacts, this trait can be very useful. On the other hand, if you don't have those things, if you're not playing a diplomatic game, definitely steer clear of the Charmer trait. Entourage increases your maximum available envoys, at first by 1, then 2, and at level 3 you get 3 additional envoys. Envoys are useful for improving relations, harming relations, or building a spy network if you commit them to a lifestyle of espionage. More envoys allows you to do more of this. It's not amazing to have the extra because you do have lots and lots of different ways already of getting more envoys, but if you're running a bit short, grabbing this on one leader is alright. Intimidator is a commander trait that can increase your influence gain. You'll get increased maximum influence available from power projection. This is nowhere near as good as the trait that just gives you straight up influence. We'll be looking at that one a little bit later, because you do have to jump through more hoops in order to gain access to this influence. It is not actual influence it is giving you, it is just giving you the option of getting extra influence. Border Guard increases your Starbase platform build speed, your Starbase damage, and your Starbase hull points. This is not as good as increasing your defense platform hull points or damage, and if you're trying to build up fortified structures, having many defense platforms will be the way to go. Therefore, it will be more important to increase the damage, output, and defensive capabilities of those platforms, not the Starbase. Guardian does basically what I just mentioned the previous trait should do. You get defense platform damage and defense platform hull points. But at the maximum level here, you're only getting plus 20% of each. If you're running a turtling strategy, if you're building lots of defense platforms, this is definitely A tier, but for most games, it's quite comfortably down here in the C tier. Last up here, we have 4 society research expertises: biology, military theory, new worlds, and statecraft. All of these increase the chance of rolling whichever the specific named category is in your society research and grant you additional research speed. However, because society research is the weakest of the 3 research trees, these expertises are not the best to put on your leaders. We're now up to the B tier for these veteran councilor traits. First in the B tier we have Unified Focus. This is going to grant you additional unity from jobs, plus 25% extra at the maximum level. You can get lots and lots of different bonuses to increase your unity from jobs output, so when we take all of those other bonuses you probably already have into account, that 25% effectively is more like a 10% increase overall in your unity output from those unity jobs. It also doesn't affect any other sources of unity like factions or anything like that. It's only jobs that are being worked, making it quite a bit weaker than other traits that increase your monthly unity. Deep Connections is just a better version of Intimidator. You're going to get flat monthly influence from this trait at the maximum level, plus 1 monthly influence. You don't have to build ships, you don't need power projection, you'll just get influence for free. Well, of course you do have to pick the trait, and you'll be able to use that influence however you want. Blabbermouth increases your base intel level by, at the top level, plus 20. That's quite a large increase to base intel level. If we could stack this with 2 or other leaders with the same trait, you should be able to very, very easily have a full read on all military positions and all military layouts, all ship layouts of every single nation in the galaxy. That can be very, very useful for planning your attack and defense. Fortifier increases your starbase hull points, your defense platform hull points, and, somewhat more importantly, reduces your defense platform build cost and starbase upgrade cost. This means if you're going to play defensively, you're going to be able to build lots and lots more platforms, especially if you stack this trait and other similar bonuses for the same economic investment. Even if you're not rushing into platforms, getting reductions in starbase upgrade cost will help you save alloys to spend on more important things like ships and megastructures. Military Pioneer, very similarly to Fortifier, reduces your starbase upgrade cost, which is very, very useful. It also increases your ship build speed. That's fine. It's not a negative thing to have that, but it is generally pretty mediocre. You can get lots of other ship build speed bonuses without needing this trait. Archivist increases your scientist experience gain and increases your archaeological skill of all leaders in the Empire. This is at the top level plus 25% additional scientist experience gain, which is equivalent to an entire Ascension perk. Next, we have 2 expertise traits that boost your engineering research, materials, and also propulsion. These are some of the weaker engineering research options, honestly, though they can be useful early on in the game if you want to rush down some economic paths or push your ship speed up really, really high. Last here we have 2 expertise from the physics research tree. Physics is generally the second most powerful of the 3 research trees. Computing and field manipulation are good. There are lots of good research options in this category. However, some of the best research options, disruptors, some of the weaponry tech, is locked behind a different type, Particles, and this is not Particles. We're now up to the A tier for Councilor Veteran traits. First up here we have Investor. That increases your trade value on every single planet in your empire. First by 10, then 15, and finally at level 3, 25%. Getting 3 or 4 of these in your empire will grant you 75 or 100% additional trade value on every planet. If you're running a trade-focused empire, this is amazing, but even if you are not, it's still very, very good. Architectural Sense reduces your building and district cost, your building and district upkeep at the maximum level, and your planetary build speed. These are, of course, empire-wide bonuses and stack with other similar reductions to building and district cost and increases to planetary build speed. Building your buildings and districts cheaper and faster will allow your economy to grow quicker and at a lower cost. Reformer is basically a better version of Unified Focus. You're going to get 5, 10, and then at the maximum level 15% monthly unity. That is going to be better than unity from jobs because it not only affects your unity from jobs, it also affects unity from other sources as well. And this is a modifier that affects your unity output after you've calculated all of those resource output bonuses. So it is a multiplicative modifier in some sense, though it will stack additively with other monthly unity output bonuses. If that wasn't enough, you'll also get a massive increase to your governing ethics attraction, which means that if you can get more pops in your governing factions, you should be able to make them happier and thus get higher happiness and higher unity output empire-wide. Spiteful is a bit of an interesting one. It's going to increase your damage to rivals, and you'll also gain some base unity output per rivalry. Combining this with enmity is honestly hilarious, and if you can get 2 or 3 of these things on your council, you'll basically be able to get around, 25-30% additional damage output against every single rival. That is really quite a good bonus. Research Exchange boosts your research sharing from agreements. This means if you are in a research agreement and you are researching a technology that the other person in the research agreement already has, you will get more than just a 25% boost to your research output. At the maximum level here, you'll get plus 25% additional research sharing, meaning that instead of 25% as a research speed bonus, you will go up to 32.25%. That's really quite a nice bonus. Last here in the A tier, we have the 3 expertise traits that we haven't looked at so far: Industry, Voidcraft, and Particles, or Particles if you want to call it that. Industry is great. That's going to give you lots of technologies that are going to boost your alloy production and mineral production. Voidcraft is very important for getting bigger ships and also unlocking megastructures. And Particles is very good for not just getting better weapons, most of the physics weapons are in Particles, but also for getting improved hyperdrives. You're looking at jump drives, gateways, all of those good things. Reactors are locked behind Particles. We're now all the way at the top in the S tier for Veteran Councilor Traits. Gale Speed is the first trait we're looking at here then, so this is going to increase your sublight speed at the maximum level by 15%. This not only gives you a tactical but a strategic advantage in Stellaris. Armada Logistician reduces your docked ship upkeep by, at the maximum level, 10% and increases your naval capacity by 7.5%. Stacking a couple of these and making sure to get a crew quarters on your star docks can reduce your naval upkeep while docked by 50, 60, even 70% when we take other modifiers into account. Furthermore, increasing that naval capacity will let you field more ships with a smaller economy. Navy Instructor gives you a boost to naval capacity, 20, 30, and then at the top level 60, and some increased ship starting experience. At the maximum level here, you'll get 200 additional ship starting experience, which means your ships will start at least level 1. Combining this with other bonuses, we can probably relatively comfortably reach 1000 ship starting experience, meaning they will start at a very tasty level 2. Higher level ships have increased to damage output, increased hull points, they're just overall better. On the surface, Home Guard might not seem very useful when you get the level 1 trait. Level 1 just gives you +1 planetary defense armies, but as you level this bad boy up, it offers you something rather tantalizing. At the maximum level, you get -20% orbital bombardment damage, and +2 planetary defense armies on every single planet in your empire. Stacking together this trait, a shield generator, and either the unyielding or adaptable traditions along with the fortress planetary designation, and you can max out the orbital bombardment damage reductions you have in your empire at that sweet 98%, meaning your planets will last absolutely the longest compared to anyone else's in the galaxy when you are defending. Hyperfocus increases your research speed by 3, 6, and 9%. A secret additional bonus it has that it doesn't really tell you about is that it increases your chance for rare research options. You should definitely grab this trait on every single statistician researcher you put on your council. The research speed is great, and the increased chance for rare tech is even better. Last up here we have Inquisitor. This one, honestly, you don't really need to grab beyond level 1. Level 1 gives you +1% research speed and +1 research alternatives. The main bonus here is that +1 research alternatives, allowing you to pick the technology you want with greater efficiency. At higher levels, that research speed bonus increases to 2 and then 4%, but honestly, it's better to go with Hyperfocus level 3 and just grab Inquisitor level 1. We're now going to rank the last of the Councilor traits with the basic Councilor traits. These are available from level 1 to level 3. These are the traits you get before you specialize your leader with a veteran class. Army Veteran increases your army build speed and increases your defense army damage, which is not terrible. It also reduces your army cost by 25%. While these modifiers are alright, honestly there are just such better modifiers you can place on your officials in this basic category that I would really not recommend picking a leader with the Army Veteran trait unless you can help it. Shipwright increases your ship build speed, and that's it. Yeah, it doesn't do anything else. 5% at level 1, 10% at level 2. Whoop-de-doo. Spycraft is the basic trait version of Shadow Broker. You're going to get increased infiltration speed and reduced operations cost from this if you have it on the council. It does have the same issues as Spycraft, of course, and that is the fact that operations are generally pretty crappy. Mining Rush grants you a very, very small bonus to your mineral output empire-wide. You will get at the maximum level plus 7.5% minerals from jobs, and at level 1 just 2.5%. This bonus is alright right at the start of the game, but very quickly becomes entirely irrelevant as you stack up 3 20% bonuses from technologies, bonuses from stability, bonuses from other sources. That 7.5% gets squeezed out until eventually it's really only worth 2.5 to 5% of the overall increase. Defense Minister increases your defense platform damage by 15% and defense platform hull points by 10%. It's right here next to those other veteran class traits that basically do the exact same thing. If you want to play a Super Turtle strategy, this is definitely A tier. You could stack it with the other traits we've looked at previously, but most of the time I would not recommend doing that. Static defenses are generally more expensive and less powerful than a mobile fleet, especially if you want to use that fleet to attack something. Eye for Talent is a relatively simple trait that pretty much all leaders can pick up. You'll get 5% Empire-wide leader experience gain at level 1 and 10% at level 2. This is a nice bonus to have. I wouldn't not take it, but there are some better options available. You can get more leader experience gain in other ways. For example, if you take the Statecraft tradition, every time you finish one of your agendas, you'll get a massive XP boost for all leaders on the council. We're up now to the A tier for these basic councillor traits. First up in the A tier, we have Retired Fleet Officer. Now, it's no longer giving you massive reductions to ship build cost. Instead, you will get plus 200 ship starting experience at the maximum level and plus 20% ship build speed. If we can stack enough of these bonuses to get to 1000 ship starting experience, all ships in your empire will have an additional 20% damage output and 10% hull points before any other modifiers are taken into account. That is an awesome bonus to grab. Even just one of these at level 1 will give you level 1 ships empire-wide, giving you an extra 10% ship's weapons damage for every ship in your fleet upon building. Principled boosts your stability by a small amount. By itself, this isn't that impressive, plus 2 stability at level 1, plus 4 stability at level 2. However, if you can stack 2 or 3 of these on the council and get them to level 2, you're looking at an additional 12 stability output, which is very, very nice. That's 7.2% additional output from jobs empire-wide. Charisma is most useful early on in the game, especially right at the start, though that reduction to Edict's upkeep can be good if you can stack enough of these similar bonuses. You will get 10% reduction to Edict upkeep and plus 35 Edict fund at level 2. This means you can run, obviously, more edicts. As your empire size increases, though, you'll find that edict fund bonus is very useless. However, the edict upkeep reduction is always useful, no matter which point you are at in the game. Logistic Understanding, lovingly referred to as the box trait by the PvP community, reduces your docked ship upkeep by 10% and your army upkeep by 15% at the maximum level. Again, this is only docked ships, so if you are not docked at a starbase, you will not be getting this bonus. However, it will allow you to have a larger fleet in being, and that means you will have greater military power. Of course, you can't fight for too long if you're relying on many of these logistic understanding traits to supply and equip your ship in terms of energy and alloys, but it is still a really good bonus to have. Hostility gives you a small bonus to your ship's weapons damage. Honestly, level 1 here is the best bang for your buck. You'll get 5% additional ship's weapons damage and some more army damage. Then at level 2, you only get 7.5% ship's weapons damage and like 15% army damage, but honestly, who cares? That jump up from level 1 to 2 is probably not worth the 2.5% for an entire trait pick. I'd probably just go with hostility level 1 when I get the choice. Up in the S tier now for basic councilor traits, and there are a whole host of traits that are absolutely fantastic to get across your empire. First amongst those we have Politician, granting 5% and then at level 2, 10% additional council agenda speed. This is awesome. Stacking a couple of these, grabbing statecraft, can mean you can level up your councillors so much faster than regular leaders in your empire. And if that wasn't enough, the bonuses you get from council agendas are awesome. You want to be running as many of those as you can. Champion of the People increases your happiness by 3% and then at the top level 7.5% empire-wide. This is an awesome bonus. A couple of these on the council and you're looking at an extra 15% happiness, which is basically equivalent to about 10% additional stability, so 6% more resources from jobs empire-wide. Honestly, this is just awesome. Fertility Preacher increases your pop growth speed by 3 and then 5%. It also increases your food output from jobs if your empire uses food, but we don't need to worry about that. The main bonus here is you're getting an awesome bonus to your pop growth speed. This is good for Gestalt empires as well, as it grants mechanical pop assembly if your main species is machine or robotic. Very, very cool. The reason this is so good is that pops are the backbone of your economic base in Stellaris. The more pops you have, the bigger an economy you can have, meaning the larger your fleets, the more research, the more of everything you can do. Skirmisher is kind of a better version of Hostility. You will get 2.5% and then 5% ship's weapons damage at the maximum level, and also a massive 10% followed by 15% increase to your sublight speed. At the highest level, this trait is equivalent to Gale speed, but it also gives you 5% more weapons damage. Simply wow.
Wow.
Feedback Loop is only available for Gestalt Consciousness empires, but you really want to get 2, 3, even 4 of these on your Gestalt Council if you can. Honestly, I forget the name of what it's called, but what does it do? Well, at the top level, you're going to get 2 stability and, more importantly, 3 amenities on every planet for every one of these traits. So if you have 3 of these traits, that's 9 additional amenities, which is the equivalent of 2 maintenance drones. This massively increases the pop efficiency of Gestalt empires. You should always take as many of these as you possibly can over pretty much any other trait. Fleet Organizer is very, very simple. It grants a percentage increase to your naval capacity. 5% at level 1, 15% at level 2. That is almost equivalent to parts of the Supremacy tradition that grant 20% naval capacity. And you can stack this multiple times on your council. Last but by absolutely no means least, up here in the S tier, we have Spark of Genius. This gives you 3% and then 6% additional research speed for your empire. On top of that, it has a hidden bonus that it increases the chance for rare research options. Increasing your research speed is great. If you're going to grab a scientist for the council, make sure you recruit a scientist which already has this Spark of Genius trait. We finished up in the S tier. It's time to jump back down again to the F tier. We're now going to be looking at veteran traits that have not got councillor abilities. These traits will not affect your entire empire, just the leader and whichever planet they might be governing, whichever fleet they might be commanding, or whichever science vessel they are on. First up down in the F tier, we have Adventurous Spirit. This is going to reduce your leader upkeep only if this leader is not on the council. At the top level, you'll get minus 25% leader upkeep and a plus 10% leader experience gain. That is a very small increase in your total amount of unity. At level 10, you're looking here at getting 5 entire unity from 3 trait points. Here we have all of the various different focus traits for the galactic community. These apply to different categories, for example the Divinity of Life category or the Mutual Defense category. You'll get additional voting strength whenever voting on resolutions focused into that one category, and if that category passes, you get an increased chance of gaining a favor with the proposing empire. However, for this trait to take effect, the leader must be a delegate, and not only be a delegate, but be on the Galactic Council. There's a whole host of these. Honestly, they kind of suck. You only can get a couple of them specialized, and you'll get a minor bonus to your voting strength in these specialized chains. If there's something you're not able to put through, you're very unlikely to actually roll the correct trait to push that one through if you're trying to do, for example, the greater good, which often the galactic community does not want to pass. I think this entire selection do need something of a rework. Camaraderie increases your monthly Federation experience. At the top level, at level 3, you'll get +1 additional experience if this leader is sent out to your Federation. That means at the maximum level, this 3-pointer trait can shave off a very small amount of time in getting to the highest level of your Federation, but overall it's just not very good. The Archaeotech focus allows one of your admirals to get, at the maximum level, plus 35% additional Archaeotech weapon damage and 35% more Archaeotech weapon fire rate. The big problem here with the Archaeotech weapons is that, generally speaking, you can never produce enough minor artifacts to equip your entire fleet with them, and thus specializing into a weapon that most ships won't have is not going to be very beneficial. You'd much rather have plus 25% weapons damage to a specific weapons category, like with the guidance system focus for explosive weapons. Dreaded increases your general's army morale damage by, at the top level, plus 50%. This is alright, but it's really not that great. You don't need to increase your army morale damage often. You want to kill the enemy. Demoralizing them can be good unless they have absolutely no morale because they are, for example, robotic. Heavy Hitter is going to be boosting your army damage at the top level by plus 30%. When generals are employed in armies, they have very high chances actually of dying, so putting your generals on armies or putting your commanders on armies is a good way to get them killed. 30% army damage will kill the enemy faster, but you still have a high chance of losing that leader. Martinet is going to reduce crime on lots of planets, not by very much though. You can only really get this on your commissioner-focused commander, but honestly, the crime reduction is kind of okay. Yeah. Ugh. Warden will increase the planetary defense armies for that planet, and if you're a sector governor, other planets out there in the same sector. This can give you a small boost to unity and make your planets slightly more defensible, but overall the number of armies you're going to get is very, very small. Conscription Agent increases your army build speed by 20% at the maximum level and gives you plus 100 army starting experience, again at that maximum level. These are not bonuses you really need to concern yourselves with or even try and attain. Observer is a trait that I can't tell is just a weird legacy trait that we cannot access anymore, or actually if we can still roll it. I've not managed to roll it, but let's just check out what it does momentarily. Planet governors will get plus 3 sensor range, plus 4 ship hyperlane detection range, and minus 25% hyper jump charge time. That hyper jump charge time of planets seems really confusing, though getting a tiny bit of extra sensor range on one planet is definitely not worth 3 points of a trait. Absolutely not. Evasiveness increases your scientists' disengagement opportunities by 2. You get a 100% combat disengagement chance and 100% more ship hull points. You should not be letting your scientists, especially your very valuable scientists, be sent off into the frontiers to explore unknown systems and die at the hands of Leviathans. This trait is not necessary, don't take it. Tuner again is going to benefit your scientist's science ship. You'll get at the top level plus 50% additional sublight speed. While this could in theory help with surveying, you generally don't need lots of additional sublight speed on a single science ship. I wouldn't recommend taking this. We're now up to the C tier. Some of these traits can be reasonable, though mostly you probably don't want them. Naturalist is going to give you at the maximum level plus 6 unity from naturally occurring tile blockers. Most of the time you do want to clear these tile blockers in order to get additional districts, so this is going to give you a small amount of unity early on, and later on quite a lot less. It also only affects the planet and/or sector that this official is governing. Distribution Manager at the top level is going to reduce your Metallurgist and Artisan upkeep by 20%, though it also has this effect scaling at half the values for other planets in the sector. whilst it's nice to reduce these upkeeps, by ascending your Ecumenopolis world wherever you've got your metallurgist output, you could already get to very high numbers of upkeep reduction. This additional small percentage is generally not worth it. I'd much rather take traits that are going to boost my metallurgist output rather than reduce its upkeep. Greeter reduces your Federation Cohesion Malice on joining by up the top level minus 15%. This effect only works if the delegate is actually representing you in your Federation. Getting a reduction to cohesion loss can be quite useful if you're expanding your Federation rapidly, for example if you have a hegemony or you're bringing in lots of new subjects as you conquer them. That will reduce the amount of possible experience you're losing and allow you to get your Federation leveled up quicker in fact normally than camaraderie, and this of course though is only if you're doing lots of Federation expansion. Peacemaker is quite similar to Greeter, though this one will reduce your cohesion ethics penalty, meaning you don't need to stack as many leader levels into your Federation to maintain maximum cohesion. Given that we can get up to plus 10 cohesion per leader that is in the Federation based on their level, I generally don't struggle with getting cohesion maintained at the maximum level, so this is alright, but not great. Annihilator is going to grant you additional orbital bombardment damage. At the top level, you'll get 175% additional orbital bombardment damage and also an extra sneaky 5% ship's weapons damage. Normally, you don't need these additional orbital bombardment damage bonuses, and they don't stack with the orbital bombardment damage reduction that any planet will have. If they have the maximum 98%, you're still going to struggle even with this plus 175%. What you need then is ground armies for an invasion. Demolisher simply increases your damage versus star bases. If you're finding star bases tricky to handle, I have concerns. If you really need this, I guess to crack one star base it might be worth it to grab it once, but it has to go on a general class commander, meaning you can't get other bonuses to ship's weapons damage for other things. It's basically locking you into just a bit of extra damage against the star base. Scout is a fun little trait that a veteran admiral can pick up. You'll get some additional sublight speed up to 25%, plus 4 ship hyperlane detection range, and it will reduce your time spent missing in action by up to 25%. The sublight speed is the nicest bonus here, but sometimes it can actually be quite a hindrance. If one of your fleets is significantly faster than the other fleets, you may find that they get ahead and end up killing themselves on the enemy fleets because they will engage so much earlier. Speaking of scouting, I scout a secret callout in the C tier. Well done for watching this video, it's been a monster so far, all the way through to this point. You've made it to the secret callout. I'd love to hear from you down in the comments below. Let me know that you've heard this. Also, try to use the word scout in your reply. Let's just have a bit of fun with this. Interrogator grants you at the top level plus 30 intel on enemy empires per invasion that you win. This means if you invade 3 planets, you'll go up to basically the maximum intel on another empire. That can be very useful, though generally you want the intel before you start the fight rather than in the middle of the war. You might be noticing something of a theme here with the Commander General traits. They're all really low down in this tier list. Hardiness is granting you at the top level plus 45% additional army health. This is probably one of the best army traits you can grab. It means your armies will stick around longer and you will need fewer armies in order to invade a planet. Though overall it's still not that great. I'd rather set my commander to be an admiral and massively buff one of my fleets than buff an army. You generally have to win the space battle before you can even start a ground invasion. Excavator increases the archaeological skill of a leader by, at the top level, plus 3. This allows you to complete dig sites slightly faster. You might not want to pair this though with the other bonuses you can get that give you more, for example, minor artifacts whilst the dig site is ongoing. It can be good, it can be bad, it's generally one of the least valuable scholar traits in my opinion. And that's mainly because dig sites can never be failed. You're only, as I mentioned, going to complete them a bit faster. Welcome now to the B tier for non-Councilor Veteran traits. Refinery focused can be very useful if you need to boost your strategic resource output. However, as you are limited by the number of building slots on your planets when it comes to the number of strategic resource jobs you can have, this isn't a very efficient role to take. At the maximum level, you'll get 35% additional chemist, gas refiner, and translucer output, but you cannot take this and also take forge focused or industrial focused, very much limiting what this governor is capable of doing. Geology Expert is available if you have a governor focused veteran class like Industrialist. It grants at the maximum level +1 minerals from minor jobs on the planet this governor is based, and half that rate to other planets in the area. This is definitely very useful if you want to boost your mineral output. It's basically the best trait for doing that, as any other modifiers you have, for example that from your leader level, will add on to this 1 additional minerals. So for example, if you're getting plus 50% output to minerals, this 1 mineral is really 1.5 per miner. Joint exercise will increase your Federation naval capacity contribution. This is only ever useful at low naval capacities. If you have a very high naval capacity, you'll already be contributing more naval capacity from your empire than possibly the Federation can take at the maximum, as Federations can only have 200, 400, or 600 naval capacity, which is based on the Federation law. Gunship focus is an admiral trait. Taking this precludes the option of having artillery focus, carrier focus, or guidance system focus. This will boost at the top level your small slot weapons damage and fire rate by 25% and your medium slot weapons damage and fire rate by 15%. This is really good if you have a disruptor equipped fleet that will always be full of medium and small slot weapons. Though as artillery does become more prevalent in the late game in terms of its effectiveness, the power of gunship focus really does level out later on. Surgical bombardment is an excellent trait if you want to take over a planet and leave the population intact. You will get at the top level plus 50% orbital bombardment damage and a massive minus 75% orbital bombardment pop damage, meaning your strategic space bombardment will not be targeting the population as much, and you will keep many more pops alive after you win the invasion. Of course, by forcing them to surrender rather than putting boots on the ground. Crusader will provide you with a small amount of unity per enemy ship killed, or if this leader is a general, a unity per enemy army killed. At the top level, you actually get some very nice bonuses as well with this, plus 15% fleet damage to rivals, plus 10% army damage, and plus 25% army morale. That additional fleet damage to rivals can be very, very useful. Reinforcer reduces the orbital bombardment damage that you take on your planet and also increases its defense army damage. The best part of this is at level 2 and 3, this leader will also, if they're a governor, add an FTL inhibitor to the planet they are stationed on. This basically provides you with a mobile FTL inhibitor that also comes with some pre-baked orbital damage reduction. Very, very good if you need to defend a system quickly if you've kind of been caught with your pants down. Agriculture focus is only available to commissioners, that is a type of commander that is best at governing planets, and it will grant you at the top level plus 45% additional food from jobs on that planet and to other planets in the sector plus 22.5% if this leader is the sector governor, and those other planets of course don't have any governors. Unless you're running something like catalytic processing, food is pretty useless. This trait can help you to minimize the number of farmers you need, or if you are running catalytic processing, allow you to support a larger alloy economy. Antiquarian gives you an increased chance to discover minor artifacts when you complete an archaeological site. If you are looking to stock up on minor artifacts, getting this trait on the scientists you will use for archaeology is very, very important. Though generally, you're only getting at the top end here plus 15%, so if you don't have it, it's not that big a deal, though it is a good bonus to have. We're now up to the A tier for those veteran non-councilor traits. First up we have Settler. This one is very, very good in terms of your pop amenities efficiency. It grants at the lowest level plus 10 amenities on the planet your governor is based and plus 4 housing. That's pretty much equivalent to 2 luxury housing districts, so grabbing this at level 5 can be very, very useful. At the top end you'll get plus 20 amenities and plus 10 housing, which is basically equivalent to a city district and a couple of entertainer pops. Very, very nice. Industrial focused is simply going to boost your consumer goods from jobs by 35%. Put this on a consumer goods focused ecumenopolis and basically laugh as you make more consumer goods than you'll ever need. Commanding presence is kind of a weird one. What you're going to get from this is increased fleet command limit on the fleet this admiral is placed with. Now, at the top level, you'll get plus 80 fleet command limit, allowing you to field a much bigger fleet and thus give many more bonuses that this admiral has to more ships. However, by taking this, you won't be able to spend 2 or 3 points, depending on how far you spec into it, on additional traits, so this admiral is slightly weaker than other admirals that don't have it. It's very much a Faustian bargain. Shipbreaker is going to allow you to field bigger fleets. Why is that? Well, this trait gives you plus 3, then plus 8 alloys as you level it up per enemy ship you destroy. So if you destroy 100 enemy ships, you can build a nice shiny new cruiser with all of the bells and whistles. Search out enemy corvette swarms for maximum effect. Additionally, at level 3, this trait also grants you plus 15% armor hardening, which is very, very good. That's going to stop enemy bypass weapons crippling your fleet. Carrier focus is mutually exclusive with artillery focus, guidance system focus, and gunship focus. At the top level, you'll get 25% additional strikecraft damage, strikecraft fire rate, and ship engagement range. That engagement range means your strikecraft will deploy earlier and therefore start shooting at the enemy ships earlier, somewhat tempering any artillery dominance. But it's still probably not as good as going for dedicated artillery ships. Jury Rigger is a very odd trait. It's mutually exclusive with the Wrecker trait, which you might see in a moment. It grants you additional ship HP restored to one of your ships per enemy ship destroyed. At maximum level, you'll get 25% HP restored on one random ship in your fleet for every enemy ship you destroy. It also reduces the chance of spawning debris to absolutely nothing, and at the maximum level gives you 10% additional ship hull points. If you can manage to get an admiral with this trait on a Leviathan, that is sometimes possible, sometimes not, depending on which patch we're in the game, then you're going to find that Leviathan can pretty much never die as long as you don't take on large ships. Mine focused and generator focused are two commissioner traits, that is a commander trait, that will grant you an additional, at the top level, plus 45% energy from jobs and plus 45% minerals from jobs. These are excellent traits to put on your leaders if you're trying to put a commissioner down to stimulate worker resource output. You can get some really silly numbers by combining these bonuses with the other bonuses a commissioner has and edicts and technologies. Prospector increases the chance to increase a resource deposit size when you finish a survey. This, of course, is only useful if there are still systems out there in the galaxy that you have not surveyed yet. That can be a challenge, though if you're playing on very large galaxy sizes with smaller numbers of empires, you should still be able to manage it by the time you can take this trait. If you can use it, it is fantastic. Especially with that newfangled kilo structure we're going to be getting very soon, the Arc Furnace. Salvager is only available to Scholar class scientists. It will give you quite interesting bonuses, so you'll get some additional sublight speed on the scientist, which is honestly by the by. However, at the top level, you will get a 30% chance to salvage ships when finishing debris projects. This means you don't need to take the Salvager Civic or change your policy in order to get both research and new ships. Riftwalker simply increases your Astral Rift skill. Why is this better though than Excavator? Well, Astral Rifts, unlike archaeology sites, can be failed. You should have as high a level as possible in order to get the outcomes that you want. So increasing your Astral Rift skill for scholar scientists that are going out there and doing the Astral Rifts for you is imperative. Last up, but by no means least in this tier, we have Society Focus. This focus is of course mutually exclusive with the other focuses that focus on the other research categories. Try saying that 10 times faster. It will grant you at the top level plus 15% society research from jobs sector-wide and 30% on the planet you are governing. That sector-wide bonus, of course, as ever, only applies if you are governing the sector capital and there are no other governors on those other planets. Because society research is generally the weakest of the three trees, this is slightly weaker than the other two focuses. You might be unsurprised to see up here in the S tier, we've got Forge Focus. That one grants you a whopping 35% additional alloys from jobs on the planet you are governing. If you have an Ecumenopolis world, you must have a governor with this trait to maximize your alloy output there. It is really, really important in order to get those silly late game numbers. Assembler can only be taken by your officials, and it will grant you at the top level plus 40% mechanical pop assembly speed every month. That is crazy. If you're a hive mind, this switches out to being plus 40% biological assembly speed, so that's also really, really good. Efficient Staffer again is only available to officials. This one at the maximum level grants you 15% worker resource output, 10% specialist resource output, and 5% ruler pop resource output. That 10% specialist resource output is probably the best part of this, and it's very, very helpful. There are very few ways of raising your specialist resource pop output in the game, so grabbing this trait can be useful. It's going to help your scientists, your metallurgists, your consumer goods production, your unity production. Everything will be helped by this trait. Every single leader in the game that has a governor-focused veteran class can roll the manufacturer trait. This will grant you, and I'm terrified to say how much this is, at the top level plus 40 amenities on the planet you are governing. That is equivalent to 4 entertainers. You're going to be getting an extra 4 pops worth of efficiency in terms of amenities output on your planets. 4 extra pops for one trait is awesome. This also pushes out to the other planets in the sector at plus 20 amenities, which is 2 additional pops worth of amenities on every single world. Wow. Wrecker is going to increase your ship's weapons damage, starting at a 10% bonus and by level 3 granting 25% additional ship's weapons damage. It does reduce your debris spawn chance, but only by 50%, so you'll still get some debris spawning, but just at half the rate as previously. That 25% additional ship's weapons damage though is almost certainly worth it. Artillerist is very, very useful if you have artillery weapons on your ships that have very low tracking, like for example kinetic artillery. You'll get 15% ship's weapons damage at the maximum level and an additional 10% tracking and 7% more accuracy. This means you are more likely to hit and your opponent's evasion will be more effectively countered. This is awesome. Material Liberator grants you some energy credits per enemy ship destroyed. And if you can get this bad boy up to level 3, you'll also reduce the ship upkeep of the entire fleet by 20%. If you have 5 admirals with this trait, you can field an additional fleet for free. Artillery focus, like the other focuses, is mutually exclusive with carrier, guidance system, and gunship. At the top level, you'll get a whopping 35% additional artillery weapon damage and, possibly more importantly, 35% more ship's weapons range. That weapons range means you'll start firing before the enemy. Hopefully you can get 1, 2, maybe even 3 salvos in before they are even in range and able to fire back. Against crisis factions, especially large multiplicative crisis factions with a 10 or 25 times bonus, this is essential for keeping your ships alive and neutralizing the enemy fleets. Guidance focus increases your explosive weapons damage and your explosives weapons fire rate. Of course, as ever, this is mutually exclusive with artillery, carrier, and gunship focus. This is a great way to increase the damage output of your ships, especially if you're running only missiles. There are quite a few builds that are very, very powerful and only use missile weaponry on your ships, so this can be a very, very effective focus. Last up here, we have basically all of the traits available to analyst veteran classes. Yes, other than society focus, which is arguably still S tier if society research were better, any pick that is specific to the analyst veteran class is amazing. Collaborator first off grants you 10% additional research from all jobs at level 3. There are very few ways of boosting your research output from jobs now in Stellaris, so if you can get your hands on these traits, you really should. Engineering focus and physics focus both provide 30% additional physics and engineering output from your jobs. This is going to help you with both researching physics and engineering technology, as you can probably imagine. It's a massive bonus to get as well, though don't forget these focuses are mutually exclusive with all of the others. We've now come to the last set of traits that need to be ranked. Welcome to the F tier for basic non-councilor common leader traits. These are traits that all of your leaders will be starting off with. These are the kind of traits you will get when you're recruiting level 1, 2, and 3 leaders. First up here, you'll notice my crusade against farmers is never ending, no matter how good catalytic gets. Agrarian upbringing at level 2 will grant you 10% additional food from jobs, 20% on the planet you are governing. That's really not usually worth 2 points. Even if you have catalytic processing, you probably should spend these picks on other, better traits you can get at these early levels. Enlister is only available to commanders. It will grant you plus 10% army build speed and minus 10% army cost, and plus 1 soldier jobs for the entire sector. These effects are of course doubled for the planet your leader is governing, though it's still not that great a bonus. Homesteader is basically a better version of agrarian upbringing. It grants you slightly fewer food from farmers, only plus 10%, but you also get plus 4 farmer jobs on your home planet. That is very, very useful if you actually want to boost your food production, because those jobs do not take any building or district slots. Righteous reduces the crime on your planets. At the sector capital at level 1 you're going to get minus 25, and at level 2 minus 50. This can reduce the number of enforcers you need in your empire, and if you are having a slight crime problem, so around year 10 to 20 when you might start needing 1 enforcer on your capital, getting 1 extra pop working can be quite useful. Because of course they will no longer need to work that enforcer job, you're getting their crime reduction from your leader instead. Environmental Engineer reduces your clear blocker cost and increases your clear blocker speed. At max level you'll get 30% reduction in cost and 30% increase in speed. Generally you only need 1 leader with this at level 2 to get the best bonuses possible. Move that leader to whichever planet you want to clear the blockers on, queue up the clear blockers, that will be paying the cost then, and then move the leader somewhere else. This way you can minimize your clear blocker cost and still get the bonuses you want on the worlds you want. Intuition is a scientist trait that at max level grants plus 25% anomaly research speed. You can never fail anomalies anymore, so it's probably better to get more anomalies with something like Perfectionist, we'll cover that a bit later, than increasing the speed at which you complete your anomalies. I would recommend waiting for your leaders to level up, and also waiting for your science production to increase before you actually start completing those early game anomalies that you find anyway. Roma increases your survey speed by, at level 2, plus 20%. This means you will be able to survey slightly quicker, though, you can get other bonuses that do pretty much the same thing and don't cost you 2 trait picks. Custom AI Assistant is basically a mix of Intuition and Roma, though at a lower rate. That's why it's sat here in exactly the same tier as the other 2. Resilience is the first trait we're going to look at here in the B tier for basic non-councilor traits, and it's very, very simple. At level 1 you'll get 10 years of additional leader lifespan, and at level 2 you'll get 20 years of additional leader lifespan. This is very, very good if you have a leader that you want to keep around for a long time. It can keep those leaders in the game just about long enough to get the extra traits, traditions, or ascensions you need to keep them from dying. However, you are missing out on 2 trait picks for other things that we could have spent those points on, so your leader that lives longer will be slightly worse. Adaptionist boosts your leader experience gain, 10% at level 1, 20% at level 2. This means the leader will level up faster and allow you to unlock veteran classes sooner, making them kind of more powerful, though of course, just like Resilience, you're missing out on other powerful picks at this stage that would help boost the leader. Energy Mogul and Private Mines are the energy and mineral equivalents of Homesteader. You'll get bonuses to energy output and mineral output, and on the leader's home world, new jobs. Those jobs are going to be helpful if you don't want to build more districts or can't build more districts, but do want to increase your output on some planets. Engineer is a commander trait that grants you a very meager daily hull and armor regeneration bonus on the fleet you put this on. This bonus is so small that it definitely will never help you in combat, though it does mean you won't need to go home to repair. Simply wait 200 days and your fleet will be at full health. Butcher increases your army damage and, somewhat scarily, army collateral damage. This trait is useful if you want to basically kill off another empire simply through invading and you're not really planning on winning the war. Use this on an army which is invading a highly populated world to really thin the herd. Archaeologist is a trait available only to scientists, and it increases their archaeology excavation speed. You don't want to pair this with the Ascension perk that grants you free minor artifacts while an archaeology site is ongoing, though it is really good if you want to finish your archaeology sites quicker. For example, if you're trying to rush the Clone Army Origin archaeology site to get to Clone Ascended or Clone Descended just a little bit quicker. Anyone can grab the Architectural Interest trait. It's going to give you at level 2 plus 20% to building and district build speed and minus 20% to building and district upkeep cost. This can be very useful for getting a world up and running just that much faster. Planar Theorist is only available to scientists, and it has kind of two different functions. If you put this on a regular leader and they're not on the council, you'll get plus 20% Astral Rift exploration speed. If they are on the council, you'll get a very tidy plus 20% Particles research speed, otherwise known as particles for those without a Greek education. We're now up into the A tier. We've only got this tier and the S tier left, and ladies and gentlemen, we have completed the leader tier list. I am terrified. Right, let's start off Gifted. This grants you plus 1 additional leader trait options, and at level 2, plus 2 additional leader trait options. Probably level 1 is enough, though both are very good by the time you get to your Veteran class for unlocking the best possible traits. It of course has no effect on your Destiny trait unlock, but it is still very good for those level 4 and higher trait picks. Entrepreneur will boost your consumer goods output from artisans by 10% at the max level and give you 2 more artisan jobs on your home planet. This can be very useful if you want to get a few more artisan jobs up, but you don't want to specialize a planet in it or waste time on industrial districts or the artisan building. Celebrity at level 2 gives you a flat plus 6 amenities. That's basically a luxury residence for free. You'll also get plus 2 culture worker jobs on your home planet. Culture workers are very good at producing not just Unity, but the other bonuses that are associated with your ethics. Trader is a trait available to officials that at level 2 gives 25% additional trade value on your planet. Even if you aren't trade focused, this can be a nice boost in terms of additional energy credits. Carefulness is probably the best basic trait available to your generals. It gives you plus 15% army disengagement chance and minus 35% army collateral damage, meaning you will kill fewer pops and destroy fewer buildings during an invasion. If you put this on a fleet, you'll also get minus 15% orbital bombardment pop damage, meaning you kill fewer pops while bombarding a planet. That army disengagement chance bonus allows you to cheese planets a little more easily. You can invade again and again while keeping a fleet in orbit and keep retreating as you lose just a couple of armies, and most of them have disengaged from the combat, whilst your opponent consistently is losing almost everything. Iron Fists gives you a planetary bonus of plus 20% slave pop resource output. It only exists if you allow slavery, and it can only be taken by commanders. But 20% extra resources from slaves is very nice. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the S tier for basic non-councilor traits. If you have stuck with me through this marathon of a video, I salute you. If you've jumped ahead to the end naughty, dob yourself in right now so the commissar can come and give you a word. Let's check out what is up here at the very end of this long tier list. First up we have Eagerness. This at level 2 grants minus 50% leader cost, so the leader is much cheaper to recruit, minus 10% leader upkeep, and plus 10% leader experience gain. At either level 1 or level 2, this does not use any leader capacity until your leader hits level 4. So this allows you to get an additional leader in your empire and put them out possibly as a governor, which level up quite slowly, to get some bonuses and not use up any additional leader capacity if you are at your maximum capacity. Scrapper gives you 2 metallurgists on this leader's home planet and a nice 10% alloys from metallurgist jobs. Pair this with the industrialist leader type that has the forge focus and you'll be getting a minimum at, let's say, level 7 of plus 49% additional alloy output on the world that leader is employed. Actually, when we factor in the specialist bonus there, we're looking at 59% additional alloy output. Unifier is one of the only traits, at least at low level, that grants additional unity from jobs. At level 2 you'll get 5% additional unity from jobs per level that this leader is. It is very good to put this on your governors or find governors with this trait in order to boost the unity output of every planet in that sector. Aggressiveness is the basic admiral trait you should look for when trying to recruit a commander admiral. You'll get at level 2 5% additional ship fire rate and 5% additional ship weapons damage. It's really nice, though it is mutually exclusive with prudence. Speak of the devil, prudence gives you 15% ship's weapons range at level 1 and 20% additional ship's weapons range at level 2. You'll also get more combat disengagement chance, keeping this fleet alive for slightly longer over protracted engagements. That additional weapons range is very good for artillery ships, but actually it's good for every single ship class. You will be firing and getting an additional strike in basically before the enemy. Unyielding gives you quite a nice bonus to ship hull points, plus 20% at level 2, though it does reduce your combat disengagement chance, reducing it by minus 20%. The level 2 perk actually has a lower combat disengagement chance than the level 1, so if you take this, make sure to upgrade it to level 2. Trickster is basically the inverse of Unyielding. At level 2 you'll get plus 40% combat disengagement chance, minus 20% emergency FTL damage risk, meaning if you hit that emergency FTL button, fewer ships will die, and plus 1 cloaking strength. The additional combat disengagement chance should enable your fleets to survive longer through multiple engagements. It is very good. The last trait we'll look at in this tier list is the Perfectionist trait. This is available only to scientists, and it grants you increased anomaly discovery chance. At level 2, plus 15% anomaly discovery chance, meaning you'll get more anomalies and thus more bonuses such as science and other things than other empires. This is the best trait to put early in the game on your science ships that are going out and surveying. This isn't great to put on your scientists that are going to be on the council, but if a scientist will not be on the council, give them Perfectionist or try and find one that has Perfectionist. I'd like to take a moment to thank my wonderful editor for putting up with me throughout this process. You have been amazing. I'd also like to thank the wonderful audience members that have actually stuck around and watched this gargantuan video. I know many people have been asking for a leader tier list for a long time. I got very close, actually once I got about 70% of the way through the recording and editing portion of it, but we ended up scrapping the video in its entirety when all of the leader traits changed. I think there was 3.9 to 3.10. I have been assured that in 3.12, most of the traits I'm covering here are not undergoing major changes, so this leader tier list should be good for at least another patch or two. Your leader's traits have a massive impact on your empire, particularly the councilor traits. But which council positions should we pair up our leaders with? If you'd like to find out more about councilor positions and hear me rank them in a tier list, click the video on screen now.